the ship that refused to stop being itself. Imagine walking into a museum and seeing an ancient wooden ship displayed behind glass. The plaque beside it proudly reads, "This is the original ship of Theseus." Thousands of visitors admire it every year. Historians preserve it with extreme care. It has become a symbol of courage, history, and human achievement. Now, imagine that one of its wooden planks begins to rot. The museum's restorers remove that damaged plank and replace it with a new one. Nothing unusual so far. After all, preserving historical artifacts often requires careful repairs. A few years later, another plank begins to decay. It too is replaced. Then another, and another. Year after year, decade after decade, more pieces wear out. Every time one becomes too damaged to keep, it is replaced with a brand new piece of wood. The process continues for generations. Eventually, something remarkable happens. Not a single original plank remains. Every beam has been replaced. Every mast, every sail, every nail, every piece of wood that once sailed the seas with the legendary hero. Theseus has disappeared, and yet, the museum still calls it the Ship of Theseus. But should it? At first glance, the answer seems obvious. Most people would probably say yes. After all, the ship was never destroyed. It wasn't abandoned. It wasn't rebuilt from scratch. Each repair happened gradually, one small piece at a time. The ship continued its journey through history without interruption. So why would it suddenly become a different ship? That answer feels perfectly reasonable. In fact, many of us make similar assumptions every single day without even noticing. Think about your own house. Maybe you've replaced the roof, painted the walls, installed new windows, changed the floor, bought new furniture. Over the years, almost everything has changed, but you still call it my house. Or think about your favorite car. Maybe you've changed the tires, the battery, the engine, the seats, the paint. At what exact moment would you stop calling it the same car? Most people have never even considered that question, because in everyday life, we naturally accept gradual change. Things age, things break, things get repaired, life goes on, and identity seems to remain intact. Or does it? This simple question has fascinated philosophers for more than 2,000 years. The story begins. In ancient Greece, according to tradition, Theseus was one of Greece's greatest heroes. After defeating the fearsome Minotaur inside the labyrinth, he returned to Athens aboard a magnificent wooden ship. The people of Athens decided to preserve that ship forever, not because it was merely a collection of wooden planks, but because it represented something much greater. It represented victory, courage, history. As the years passed, however, wood naturally deteriorated. Keeping the ship intact required constant maintenance. Whenever a plank became too old, it was replaced. No one questioned this decision. In fact, replacing damaged parts seemed like the only sensible thing to do. After all, preserving the ship meant repairing it. The process was so gradual that nobody noticed any dramatic transformation. There was never a day when people gathered and declared, "Today, this is no longer the ship of Theseus." The changes happened silently, one board at a time, one repair at a time, almost invisibly. And perhaps that's what makes this story so unsettling. Because if replacing one plank doesn't change the ship, then replacing two shouldn't either. Neither should 10 or 50 or 100. Each individual repair seems completely harmless. Each decision makes perfect sense on its own. But when we step back and look at the entire process, something feels strangely different. Without realizing it, we've arrived at a question that has puzzled philosophers for centuries. If every original part has eventually been replaced, is it still the same ship? Take a moment and think about your own answer before we go any further. Most people feel confident, they already know it. But in the next part, we're going to introduce one additional detail, a single twist that transforms this simple question into one of the deepest paradoxes ever conceived. And once you hear it, you may never think about identity the same way again. By now, you've probably chosen your answer. Maybe you believe it's still the same ship because every repair happened gradually. Or maybe you think it became a different ship once every original piece had been replaced. Either way, your answer probably feels reasonable. But what if I told you? There's one more detail to the story, a detail so simple that it completely changes the question. Imagine that every time a worn-out plank was removed from the ship of Theseus, it wasn't thrown away. Instead, someone carefully stored it in a warehouse. The first plank was labeled and preserved, then the second, then the third. Year after year, every original beam, every mast, every section of the deck, every piece of wood that had once belonged to Theseus' ship was carefully collected instead of discarded. Eventually, after many decades, the restoration was complete. The ship displayed in the harbor was made entirely of new wood. Not a single original piece remained. But inside that warehouse, every original piece still existed. Now imagine a skilled shipbuilder walks into that warehouse. Using every one of those preserved planks, beams, and masts, he carefully rebuilds the ship exactly as it once was. Every original piece goes back to its original place. Every measurement is identical. Every detail is faithfully restored. When he finishes, there are now two ships standing side by side. One is the ship that has remained in continuous use, repaired little by little over many years. The other is built entirely from the original materials that once sailed with Theseus himself. Now the question becomes much harder. Which one is the real ship of Theseus? Is it the ship that preserved its continuous history, or the ship that preserved its original material? They cannot both be the original, yet both have an equally convincing claim. The first ship never stopped existing. Its identity seems to come from continuity. Every replacement happened gradually, without interruption. From the perspective of history, it feels like the same vessel simply aged and was maintained over time. But the second ship contains something the first one no longer has. Every original plank, every original beam, every original piece of wood that actually traveled across the Aegean Sea with Theseus. If authenticity comes from physical material, then perhaps this rebuilt ship is the genuine one. Suddenly, neither answer feels completely satisfying, and that's exactly why philosophers have debated this question for centuries, because the paradox doesn't force us to choose between a right answer and a wrong answer. It forces us to choose between two answers that both seem correct. One says identity comes from continuity. The other says identity comes from original substance. Both ideas make sense, both feel intuitive, and yet they cannot both be true at the same time. This is what makes the ship of Theseus so different from an ordinary puzzle. A puzzle has a hidden solution waiting to be discovered. A paradox challenges the assumptions you didn't even realize you were making. Without noticing, you've probably been carrying one of those assumptions your entire life. When you say, your childhood home is still your home, what exactly makes it the same home? The bricks, the address, the memories? When you upgrade your phone every few years, at what point does it stop being the same device? When a company changes every employee over several decades, is it still the same company? When your favorite sports team replaces every player, every coach, and even the owners, is it still the same team? These questions sound completely unrelated, but they all share the same invisible foundation. The ship of Theseus is quietly hiding inside every one of them, and it doesn't stop there, because there is one example that is even closer to you than your house, your car, or your phone, an example so personal that you've probably never questioned. It has been changing every single day of your life, yet you still believe it is exactly the same. In the next part, we'll discover that the greatest version of the ship of Theseus might actually be you.